All right, why don't we get this started? We do have a quorum. Councilmember Hasselmeyer will not be with us this evening. So we do not have any board and commission interviews. Is there anything anyone would like to review on the regular agenda?
I'll have questions about items on the consent agenda, but we don't need to review that.
Okay, but it's a heads up that we may take something
Most
on.
questions.
Yeah, okay. Great. Anybody else? Yeah. All right. Then we are going to go ahead with updates. Van, I'm going to start with you.
Sure. I got to go to my first TAC meeting yesterday, and it was very good. They are planning a pedestrian safety event, tentatively scheduled for the 19th of October. So put that on your calendar tentatively. And talking about issues at Larson, Bacon and Swan and Holy Redeemer, and they're working on recommendations for that. And then the GSAC had a Bon Voyage party for Warren in June.
Nice.
Library meets tomorrow. Plan hasn't met since our last council meeting. On the Bacon issue, I think, will that come to council next council meeting? Do we know?
I don't know.
Which
Okay.
Bacon issue?
TAC
Site the
is supporting a recommendation from the Snapchat, so,
I don't have it planned yet.
Okay.
Which will be on.
but in the next
Soon.
meeting or two.
Yes.
And the other question on that was, I was at the discussion, do we think there'll need to be like a bump out so that the stop sign is like placed in line of sight better, or is that to be determined before it comes to council?
I don't have that information on.
What was
Sorry to just.
What was discussed last night is that there's a parking lane right there.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we put it at the edge of the parking lane, that puts it in the line of sight.
Thank you.
Okay. Kevin?
No, nothing for me.
Anderson.
Just one item here. We participated with the annual "We're Orange for Gun, Not to Have Gun Violence." And that was pretty good tentative event, and we issued the proclamations at the time for city council. They had some very good cookies there.
Some very good cookies. All right. We got our priorities.
So does
going. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was a good event.
No updates from me.
You?
I have no updates, Mayor.
No. All right. We're rolling along. I have a few. We are about to begin on our usual 4th of July celebration, which is not often, always a whole lot of fun. Typically, council wears t-shirts that match. We have 2 council members who need to order t-shirts. I understand Jordan is taking care of that order of t-shirts. Did you know that?
Well, I did see an email.
In
I was waiting for the
consultation. All right.
We'll start on that tomorrow morning.
So if you are a returning council member and need a new t-shirt, please how about if you send a copy of both Jordan and Katie on that, so we make sure. We'll need the size. I know there was some controversy last year because red and white t-shirts were purchased and some of us wore red and white t-shirts. Do you know why that's a problem? You know why that's a problem, right? Thank you. So if you I had a red one, so I'm gonna maybe switch colors. We'll see. But if you could do that by tomorrow, because it's a short window, that would be really helpful. So let them know about a t-shirt size for you.
Do we have to specify a color? Because now I'm really stressed about that.
Can I just say, don't order red? All right. You should have received from me, those of you who missed the Zone Co meetings last week, you should have received from me an email with some times that they're available. We hadn't talked about Emerson, but I put you on there anyway.
Okay.
If you could get back to me within the next day or two, we'll set up those Zoom meetings so that Sean has heard from all of us as they start to work on that.
And just to chime in on that, the meeting, I went to a meeting, Jamie went to a different one. They were great. Lots of really good discussion about what's working well, what's not working well. Just really excited about the whole process and seeing what he comes up with and recommends ways to simplify things and streamline things better. So I'm excited to hear how you guys like it.
Excellent. I also attended, and I know a couple other people did, the Webster Grove School District open house, their community forum to talk about the financial situation of the school district, which is incredibly challenging. A lot having to do with state funding and changes in how they can collect funding. So we will be in continued contact with them, I think, as they make some decisions about how they're going to move forward. The Mayor's Youth Advisory Council had a meeting as well. I guess this was last week. They will now begin visiting different boards and commissions. Thank you to everyone who responded to my email. They now have been instructed that they should contact the chair in advance, introduce themselves when they arrive. They're pretty much go-getters, so I think they're going to do that. But, you know, if you see a teenager wandering around looking lost, please give a hand. At our meeting, I sent you an email that included this. They did with Pam Bliss, former council member who's the community advisor, a pretty deep dive on the Elm shared use path. And so I sent you a summary of their comments. And I think that's what we're going to do, is let them take a deep dive with not myself or Councilmember Hasselmeyer, but somebody who's not on council anymore, so they feel like they really can say what they want to say. And then they'll review what gets sent on to you. And then for those of you who haven't responded, if you want to be part of the community reading of the Declaration of Independence, let me know, because our slots are closing as of the end of the week. So I already penciled you in. I don't know whether you want to or not. I can always replace you.
Yeah.
All right.
That was an erasure.
Yeah.
Not sure I'll be here that evening.
Well, good. Then absolutely. Okay, well, let's move on to our topics. Who is going to start the bond sale discussion? You're going to start with our experts right away. Would you like to make some introductions for us?
I will absolutely make introductions. Thank you, Mayor. So, we are proceeding with the sale of the second tranche of our approved Prop W bonds, so that we can finish out all of the projects and have funds to encumber, etc. And we, since the last bond sale, we have hired Stiefel Nicholas Company to be our municipal advisor. And so we have representatives from them this evening. So Martin Gaffori and Colin Hilbert. And they are going to present to us tonight about the bond sale upcoming. There's plenty of data that you can geek out on in the presentation if you like.
Yeah.
But they will be with us tonight to talk about it, the open presentation. What happens tonight at the council meeting is that we, just for the process, we read the first and second reading of the bond sale ordinance. And you're being asked to approve a resolution to move forward with the bond sale, which would take place the morning of our next council meeting, which is July 7th. And then that night we will have sold the bonds, and then we amend the ordinance, complete it with the information that happened that morning, and then we make the sale official. So that's a little bit of the process upcoming, but I will let gentleman from Stiefel bring it away.
Thanks, Gregory. Martin Gaffori with Stiefel, Colin Hilbert with me as well. We're going to just kind of run through a few different things with you. This really is just a representation of the city's outstanding debt profile. So this is your current outstanding debt. You have one maturity left, or two maturities left, actually. Your 2019 bonds and then your 2025 bonds are listed there as well. So you have about 16.8 million or so outstanding on the connection. You approved the 22 million of bonds in 2024. This, as Gregory mentioned, would be the last portion of that, of the 4.905. That is the balance to be issued. Happy to talk through any more on your outstanding debt if you want to get caught up on any of that.
Those two bonds, the Firehouse 2 bonds and the Prop W.
Otherwise, here's a listing of the schedule as far as kind of where we have been and where we are currently. This is the second page there shows the process as far as from beginning to end when we start the bond issue. So just last week, the city had its rating call in this room, did a great job. Staff did a wonderful job between Gregory, Scott, David, James as well, all helping to explain, answer questions from the rating agency, give them all of the details of what's going on here at the city. We don't have that rating yet. We will be receiving that here in a couple of days. On the 18th is the plan. They gave us kind of a quick read that they have a good feeling they're going to essentially rate you the same as where you were, which is AA1, which is one level away from AAA. I did make the plug of, can we get to AAA? What are your thoughts? And they said, based on everything that they're seeing, it feels as though that's probably where they're going to land is the AA1, which is, again, one level away from AAA. Very solid rating, very good credit rating. As Gregory mentioned tonight at the board meeting, or at the council meeting, you'd be approving the resolution for the sale to take place on July 7th. One of the documents that you will be approving is the preliminary official statement, as well as the notice of sale. The notice of sale also lays out all of the details as far as the bid specs. So essentially what will happen on July 7th, it's going to be put out to bidders. Bidders will give their rates on that day. We'll have a conversation in that morning, say, okay, well, this is the list. This is the firm that you go with. It's typically the one with the lowest tick or true interest cost that gets submitted. We'll have those conversations in the morning. We'll ask for a verbal okay about midday. Once we receive that, then we can go ahead and move forward with the pricing and execute all of those documents later in the evening with the purchaser of those bonds. So then essentially a couple of weeks later, you have closing on July 21st will be the closing date. I will be around the morning of July 7th for the bond sale. And then I'm going to be on the plane, unfortunately, that afternoon. And then Colin has been so gracious to step in that evening to be here to answer any questions during the council meeting. So he will be here that night. I'll be reachable by phone if anything comes up, but I know Colin will be able to answer any and all questions that may come up. That's kind of a rundown on the calendar. Happy to answer any questions here if you guys have anything.
One quick question.
Of course.
Are the bonds only sold to one individual entity, or can you break it up into the?
So the way that this will take place, this is a competitive sale process. So essentially a broker dealer, most likely could be a bank, will submit a bid that will be the winning bid. Then they will be notified you were selected within 20 to 30 minutes or so of when they submit as far as the deadline, which I believe is 10 a.m. on the morning of the 7th. So then about 20 minutes later or so, we run some numbers, double check, verify the math, make sure everything's correct, gets awarded to that firm, which is to be determined. Then they will then sell it to their investor base. Okay. So it's essentially purchased by the purchaser, and then they sell it through their distribution network thereafter.
Okay.
So that's
Oh, no,
really
that
the
answers
answer.
my
That's the
question.
answer at this point in time. But it can be, more fully answered on the day of the sale.
Councilmember, if I recall correctly, Raymond James was the winning bid last time, so they purchased the first tranche from us.
And on our rating from Moody's, we anticipate that being a AA1, which is super high. The only thing that the city was scored lower on all the various categories, we got an A rating, and every municipality in the state gets an A rating in one category, basically because the Hancock Amendment doesn't allow us to raise our own revenues. It caps our amounts of revenues. And so every city gets rated down to an A. So that's pretty much what keeps us from being able to get a AAA rating. Everything else we rated very highly in on all the other categories. So
Yeah, thanks for that.
Hancock strikes.
Hancock strikes right in. So
This is probably one of the most interesting slides for you all. This is kind of the details of the financing, kind of where we sit today. So again, we're talking a closing date of July 21st. The par amount that's remaining is the 4.905 million. The number that I like to emphasize is the all-in true interest cost. That's hovering around 3.9%. That's similar to like an APR on a loan. If you had a home loan or a car loan, takes into account all the costs as well as the interest rates. So that's kind of where that's sitting at this point. The final maturity is 20 years out. So I'm sorry, this one is 18. Yeah, we did 20 years is the statutory limit. We kind of shortened it a little bit on this one to 18 years, actually. So 2044 final maturity. Thank you, Colin. Some information down below as far as where things have been with respect to the different projects that were authorized from the voters. We just included some of that there, which is a summary from what was put forward in our rating discussion. So that information is there for your benefit as well. Any questions on this slide?
Not me, but maybe Scott. So I see that some projects is less than 12 months, less than 24 months, where we have continuous projects on at the same time.
Yes, so we've got various projects, and the first tranche of bonds that we sold, as well as this next batch that we're selling for the next 5 million, that will be happening in phases, but a lot of times those phases will be happening at the same time. There'll be some things under construction, some things under design, some things seeking public input, so that we're moving through that process in a fairly orderly manner to always keep things up next in the hopper.
Thank you.
Then this next one, really, there's a lot going on here. I really just want you to focus on the bar. I can walk through a lot of this if you want in more detail. Yeah, I can walk through as much of this as you want in detail. I think the things that are of interest, maybe the boxes on the far right. That's why they're a little larger and a little more easy to read. The information in this table, though, is a levy spreadsheet that gives you kind of all the background information that says this is your outstanding debt, this is your debt repayment, this is your revenue stream that's coming due, this is how you can pay for this. Then essentially what we did on the columns to the right, the far right, you can see if you were looking to do something else into the future. These are some of the different ideas as far as net present value buckets of money that you could issue potentially at the same tax rate that you currently have levied at 20.1 cents if you have additional projects to be considered later on in the future. Really, the boiled down version of this page is you have the ability to issue anywhere between 8.5 to nearly $13 million of additional bonds in the future between 2028 to 2030, depending on what your timeline is. After this issuance, you have that ability based on the cash flow that is being generated based on your tax rate currently. So what we do is we show you 3 different interest rates because that's what we have to do. We have to show you a range of where rates may land. We don't have our crystal ball that works perfectly, unlike, well, just like everyone in this room. And so we give a little range as far as where rates may be that we think are reasonable. Anything could happen that could cause rates to go further higher or further lower. We don't know where things will land, so we just give you a range as an estimate so you have an idea if you are planning for other things. We just wanted to bring this to your attention that you do have some additional means at your disposal, which would require a vote of the people. This isn't just you can move forward with that, but just food for thought really on this one, please.
Would it be like no tax increase?
That would be maintaining the same tax rate, so 0 rate change, no tax rate increase scenario potentially. depending on what happens with all of the things, right? I mean, there's SB 190 that's currently in place, which should be fine, but
You better elaborate on
We-
that just a little bit.
so the SB 190 is the senior property tax freeze that is currently approved. St. Louis County was not included in the Senate Bill 3 legislation that was out that maybe you've heard about. Really doesn't involve St. Louis County, but I can go into more detail if you'd like. That really talks about freezing assessments or capping them at 5%. St. Louis County opted to leave their situation alone the way it has been done historically. So, and it's one or the other with respect to Senate Bill 190 or Senate Bill 3 impacts. So you have Senate Bill 190, which is in place currently. So that's the one that you need to be aware of at this point. And, you know, who knows what happens with legislation in the future.
You'd get really rich if you knew.
We all would. We all would. And then really these next couple of slides are really just to give you some perspective as to interest rates. Again, just kind of where they've been historically. This is a 10-year slide. You can see kind of COVID here. This is an anomaly. That's historically low interest rates. Let's, you know, knock on wood wherever that is. Let's hope that we don't ever go back to that point, because that means something bad is happening.
Right.
Something terrible is happening. I would say, you know, if you get rid of this, you're kind of in line with the average, honestly. Like, it's not like you're very far off when we ignore the historical lows that took place, which is not normal. That's not a normal situation. And then this is a more recent summary of where rates have moved. I would say you kind of want to pay attention more to the 10 to 20 year range here. If we iterate, you know, you're kind of somewhere really right here in the middle with respect to a 15-ish year average life. I think your average life is probably 12-ish or so, which I can tell you. But interest rates have kind of went up a little bit as a result of the Iran war, non-war situation. This week, we've gotten maybe a little more clarity with some things. We'll see how that all kind of plays out. The markets don't love uncertainty. You can see interest rates went up kind of as a result of the start of this. Rates were declining here towards the beginning of the year. Then that announcement and everything took place there. Then everything took place there, and you can see the rates kind of marched upwards, and then they've kind of had their fits and starts here recently. So in the last week or two, they've come down about 15, 20 basis points. So 0.15 to 0.2% or so. That is what I have for you. Happy to answer any questions or anything.
Thanks. Anybody have questions?
Yes, oh, no.
You asked all of yours. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we'll be back on July 7th, or Alan will be back in my stead, and be able to answer any questions and work through the final results.
Sounds great. I know that I'll speak for myself. Looking forward to moving forward on these other projects as well. So thank you for your help and
Yeah,
getting us to the point where we have that funding.
yeah, absolutely.
All right. I think they're going to be easy on you, I guess.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good night. If you guys think of
Thank you.
anything else and have other questions,
Absolutely.
Your boss.
Thanks. Take it easy.
All right.
See you, Scott.
Thank you. Thanks. All right, we'll move on to Arts Commission Utility Box Painting. Rick Irwin, who is from the Arts Commission, is here to join us. You all saw the general proposal in your packet as well. So Rick, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Well, thank you guys for having me. I am Rick from the Art Commission. We'll make this fast because, in full disclosure, I'm the first house south of Elma after Annunciation on the west side. So I'm more interested in the next discussion. But let's get this and go through it. So for the new council members, the Art Commission, 2006, 20 years, we've been placing art around the community, as well as sponsoring performative arts, best known for our achievement in the arts. And so I'm here to talk to you today about utility boxes. First thing I'm going to do is just tell you, I assumed every box is the same. I don't know which one is MoDOT. I don't know which one we own. I just assume they're all willing to paint. So that's what I'm going to ask for help is to know what to paint. These are our boxes. That's DD Mao, the one across the street, and that's the one up the crossroad. So you're already having some vandalism and stuff now. The goal of this is to propose to beautification. The most important thing is you guys asked, you wanted to know if it's ongoing. This is definitely an ongoing program. These programs are taking place around the country now. Clayton, I believe, it's had theirs since 2001. Roswell, New Mexico had one for almost 20 some odd years. I'm literally still stealing this program from the Grand Center, who just did it last year. So, they already have their knowledge. So the most important thing is cost. 4 installations at $900 a piece. I'm going to show you kind of what I think you'll get for $900 because I can show you what other things have been around the region. That's $900 to each artist for supplies and materials, and then $400 just to throw a party. Let's celebrate the arts. Yeah. The bottom of the back, that's Clayton right there. But first thing, I've just dumbed this down to make this class. Planning and site identification. So the biggest thing for us is to find a map so we know what we can paint and what's available. 2 is a call for artists. The call for artists will be through kind of what we're doing now with the achievement in the arts. We'll go through social media. I'll show you how some other communities are doing it now. But what we would do is we put a call out for artists. Then from somebody, hopefully from 2 from the city and 3 from our commission, we get together and we review the applicants. We would ask the applicants to put us 3 to 5 images, statement, and maybe show us some other works they've done in the area so we have know. We'll look at creativity, artistic merit, technical residency, and relationship to the site. Installation, most programs is 4 to 5 months. Originally, what I think I gave you was like something from February to May. I've also seen it done fall. Just kind of depends on what fits in the cycle, but we can adapt. That's the best thing about this. Like if we find that there's a replacement system or schedule that's needed, we can change and adapt. And then the final installation is to have a party. So, this is the most important. I put these up for the content standards. That's what everybody's worried about. What are we going to allow to be on? And that's part of having it, why we're having both city and arts. No sexual content, violence, gore, all those things that you don't want. We agree. Site-specific, utility boxes will be assigned by the program, working with Public Works. All 4 sides must be painted and the top. Do not paint over identification. Exterior acrylic paint. We will definitely work with whatever we are told to use as the material. Maintenance and longevity. For the first 12 months, the artist is responsible for any kind of damage if they didn't do it correctly. The commission will take care of any kind of graffiti. Works are expected to maintain for 5 years. That's why I said from the price of this is for the first 5 years is $4,000. By the time we get to 5, hopefully we have now been adding on. I thought the easiest thing for the way I've been on this commission for 3 years and kind of watching the way Webster thinks, I tried to plan it out for you. So the first thing I need is from Public Works is help on just which traffic signals, ownership, planned replacement schedules, utility boxes excluded, and those that could. So I'm recommending for our first 2 years, we focus on just a welcome to Webster approach. One of the things I really want to do with this program is extend to Webster is. We focus so much on the art down here. I'm South Webster, North Webster is not there. And I know you've been looking for signs that say welcome to Webster. So let's just start it easy for the first 2 years. Past that, we go 3 connector boxes. So we would take ourselves from the farthest point of Webster and work our way back in. This is the Grand Center. Grand Center put a call out. That's $1,200 is what each of those are. These are the 3 and they're all in a row.
1,200 each. Or...
1,200 each. This is Prospect Yards. That's the area the foundry is. These are really done with the Regional Arts Commission. So these are nice. These are $1. But they're really beautiful. And you can see they're site specific. So you can't see it, but this is Target. Fresh Foods. And then that's the actual whole yard right there. The top golf is just down the street. So they did a really nice job putting everything together. Over time, the opportunities can grow. Even in just talking about the program, I've had high school students ask me about it as I've been walking the streets, taking the awkward photos of everything. What are you doing? We can go themed. These are just really basic ideas. Parks, historical business districts as we come back in, artist talks with live painting, educational partnership. I've been talking to some of the schools. Almost every school has a box somewhere within. Some schools have even talked to me that they would take the program over and do it themselves, or my daughter's been really trying to be like, this high school kid's an amazing painter, focus on them. So this is allowing us to not just choose, adult artists, but we can actually get some younger artists and put them with an artist and kind of learn to build. Outline printed maps, that was a lot of what I've done. I've done a ton of walking with my kids, both in Clayton and downtown. In time, I'd like to see a request form where the community can ask for boxes and how we can do it. And then if I didn't convince you yet, Kirkwood's already doing it. They're doing it and they're not doing it well. This is how they're doing it. It's just literally, what do you want painted here? They have a couple images and you can click across, and then that's the Sun Truck Ford is already putting up. So these programs are already taking place around us. I hate to tell you, we're really behind. I will carry the bulk of the workload to get us there as long as I can get the maps of what we can paint. I'll get us there. So that's all I have.
Anybody have questions for
A question just coming like your opportunity to pull in the high school to paint some of the utility boxes.
See, I don't know if I like art. For 15 years, I was the head of City Museum. And then past that, I just want art to be accessible. And I think this is a good way. We call it a beautification problem, but really what is it? It's taking a functional element and making it an artistic piece. So just to really get the high school and kids and all these schools. I mean, it's just community pride.
Especially pairing with the regular artists, that's a lot of experience that they can grab.
I like that. The community pride is good. Question, like, when you get the submissions, like I want to paint a box, do they know what box they're proposing to paint?
Yeah,
They have a
so
location.
that'll be the plan, is to get a map together of how we should go each year. So yes, you should be showing them. And then, because sometimes it'll be site specific. You'll want to do something based on
Yeah.
where that is. It's Tuxedo Park or something like that.
So first you apply to be an artist in this program, and then your committee will assign boxes.
No, well, it could go either way. We're only saying 4 boxes. So I guess you could list it, and if someone wants to do a preferential treatment, you could have them list which ones they want. Just like a residency program.
Would match.
So how is this maintained? So you said for 5 years, so this 900 per box, there's 4 boxes that we're looking at. And so like over the 5 years, I mean, so how soon are all 4 of those painted? And then what's happening over the 5 years?
3 weeks for the painting process. It's
Mhm.
5 months for the entire, from the point that we ask for call for artists to the point that we actually finish the project and paint.
Mhm.
Then that box should last us 5 years without having to touch it. Then it comes back into the cycle, unless there's a schedule that public works requires otherwise. Some do 3 years. So by the end of 5 years, we will have 20 boxes painted.
So what happens with like maintenance? So just like the
That's the
vandalism is
one
on
come
there?
back in and we'll take care of for the 5 years. We'll monitor with graffiti and stuff.
Okay.
But whether you have that or not, you're still getting your dirt. I mean, these are, again, I'm sorry about that. The first ones are our boxes already.
Mhm.
And I like the idea that there's like a protective coating.
Yeah.
You can put on that helps like clean them if they get graffiti on.
And we will follow whatever Public Works says is the best paint. So that's how we've seen it in the past. Nothing can be attached to it. That doesn't last very long. Right. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, those are ours now. I mean, in the middle, we're advertising for something on Cherokee Street. It's not even our community, but
In looking at other places that are doing this, and I hate to be the person that asks this question, but it needs to be asked. Have you run into questions regarding content and First Amendment issues where people are submitting things?
all the time. That's what I do.
How are those dealt with?
Well, so that's how we are going to start first with Welcome to Webster. It's very easy. So gives us 2 years to answer all those questions. But normally it falls into content standards right there. Promotional language, logos, addresses, trademarks, brands, identifiable individuals living, defamatory depictions, so religious, they fall in there.
And all of that'll be part of the application process.
Yes, sir.
To be reviewed and approved.
Yeah, so what will happen is the first process comes in, they'll give us the designs. The 5 people will meet, they'll select. It goes back out to that artist for a final like drawing and then final review. So nothing should go on that board that you don't know about.
So Neil, because if I get this right, because they're getting an honorarium for doing this, they are agreeing to abide by our content standards.
You should also get royalty free use of all the images for the rest of it.
That does make a difference.
Yeah.
It's exciting. I mean, I think it's great. Start small and grow it over time.
We want to make that fatal blow and have our council look it over before it's approved.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
The two city reps, like rethinking staff, 3 are.
Whoever you guys recommend.
It could be one council member and one staff member. We could do it that way.
I just,
We don't need 7 people on it.
we don't need to delay the whole.
Yeah, well, you can
It's
also just give us one-on-one community member.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all gonna hit the perfect
Subjective.
times at some point. Someone's gonna complain about it, so let's just have it.
We have time sometimes agreeing on things that are objective. Something subjective would be.
I'll just tell you what's good and what's bad.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions for Rick? I don't think we, yes,
Is it
go
already
ahead.
in our budget for 2027?
So
Or do we need an amendment? Does the
So-
Arts Commission have a budget?
The
We
Arts
do, right?
Commission has money in this year's fiscal budget that we are somehow trying to figure out how to use for this program, even though the chances of it being implemented are 0. I clearly Gregory has not heard about this. I'm blaming Scott for that. He and I have talked about it.
We can encumber funds.
Clearing a hole in
No.
the back of your head.
We can encumber funds for this. We
So, but the bottom line is we think we already have funding identified for this.
It's a position.
And not a huge amount.
This is, this,
Very
no,
phenomenal.
yes. Okay,
Yeah, and they're pretty.
So I love-
These are very, like, this one's right next to the Fox. This is more north of Grand, so it drives. These are, I believe this is a local.
I like the idea that other municipalities near us are doing this, because then you'll see them as you go like around.
A lot are getting
your
to
region.
wraps, so regional arts. So Maplewoods are actually vinyl wrapped. They have 2. I usually find vinyl fades so fast. And then those are really it. It was Maplewood, Kirkwood's throwing some up. Clayton has the best. Prospect Park's really paid for it. And the Grand Center is already having a plan to keep extending. They did their first 3 down Grand.
So what can you do wrong? You said Kirkwood's not doing it very well. What
Well,
could
I
you
that's
do wrong? What should we not
That's your
do?
question. I love it.
There's an article in the Post about that, but I think there's something else.
No, see, they're just posting and asking what you want. They're not going through I don't know what their method is. There's no formal process of this. This is a Kirkwood neighborhood. And then I believe the one right there was just painted.
The honorarium would cover the costs to the artist for supplies, but it would be what we specify as far as type of paint.
Yeah. I mean, the option, maybe we can work with the local, hardware store at the street, kind of bring them. He's kind of pulling it all over. At some point, as you guys have asked how much city funding will, at some point, if we get the schools involved, there might need to be some police around to kind of help, but that thing gives us an opportunity to have the police interact with the kids as they're doing it.
And the police will do it?
Well, sometimes these boxes are very close near the side of the street, so you kind of need a little bit of extra protection to make
okay.
sure people don't go out there. But there are opportunities.
okay. I don't think we need a formal vote on this, but it sounds like you get a big fat green light. from The Arts
Yes.
Commission. All right. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We have no appointments to boards and commissions. I'm going to suggest that we have 2 items for closed session. I'm going to suggest that we maybe try to negotiate a contract. So would you call for a closed session and negotiate a contract? Actually, why don't you do both in case we can fit it in?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to call for an executive closed session under Attorney-Client Privilege Communications, Missouri Statute 610.021. Parentheses 1 and number 4, negotiate contract, Missouri Statute 610.12021 parentheses 12.
Second,
Mayor Arnold,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
yes.
Councilmember Alexander.
Yes.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd.
Yes.
Councilmember Hasselmeyer is absent. Councilmember Wah.
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell.
Yes.
All right, if you're joining us online, we will restart the meeting, so you'll have to log on again, and we will do that in our regular meeting, and we are going to shoot for right at 7:30. Thank you. Welcome to our June 16th meeting here for the Webster Grove City Council. We are happy to have you all in attendance. We are going to welcome your questions and ideas a little bit later in the meeting under the remarks for community and visitors. Please, if you have not done so and you'd like to speak at that time, fill out a comment card. If you're in the room, they're on the table over there by the door, and you can hand them in at the end of the podium. If you are online and we get to that point in time in the meeting and you would like to make some sort of public comment, then we're going to ask you to use the raise your hand function at that time. Those comments are limited to 3 minutes, so we can get through the meeting on time. And we will ask you to state your name and address when you come forward to make your comment. All right, so let's go on with our call of the roll, please.
Yes, Mayor. Mayor Arnold,
Here.
Councilmember Smith,
Here.
Councilmember Alexander,
Here.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd. Here. Councilmember Hassemeyer is absent. Councilmember Waugh,
Here.
Councilmember Mitchell.
Here.
All right, we are happy to welcome the director of our public library, Madison Morris, to come forward and talk about the budget, and I believe one other topic as well.
Okay, and I had slides to share as well. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I have several
okay.
handouts as well. Bear with me. Not trying to make you stay here longer, you know. You. I'm passing. Okay, I'm ready.
All
You guys
right,
ready?
thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for having me tonight for the annual presentation of the library's budget, but you're also allowing me to talk about Proposition L, which I appreciate. I'm going to quickly review the library's 26-27 budget, and then, like I said, I'll spend a few minutes talking about the library's upcoming tax levy that will be on the August 4th ballot. So for the budget, I know for everyone looking, it's a little bit difficult to see on the slide, so I apologize, but I believe you guys also have that in front of you. So let's get into it. If you take out our debt payment, our operating budget comes in at a little bit over 1.5 million. Overall, our budget is pretty straightforward. Our largest expense is going to be personnel, and that's for good reason. Staff are what make the library run. They open the doors, they order and process materials, they help patrons find information, provide outreach, develop programs, maintain technology, and basically just keep everything operating smoothly. We also operate a 3-floor facility and are open 7 days a week, which requires a dedicated staff to provide consistent service. The next largest area on our budget is our collections. So this includes the physical collection of materials that you see throughout the building, as well as digital resources like Libby, Hoopla, and Canopy. I think we talked a little bit about those last year, but e-resources is an area that continues to grow every year. Last year, we even tried to fix that a little bit. We changed our Hoopla borrowing limits. We went from 8 a month to 6 a month with the intention of trying to keep that budget under control. But as you can see, we still expect to spend over about $100,000 on e-resources this year alone. The rest of the budget is what it takes to keep the building running. You have utilities, supplies, cleaning services, technology, maintenance, our ILS, which is basically everything that we do for the library. That's what it runs on, is our ILS system, and other operating expenses. I have to say that I squeezed every penny that I could out of the budget this year. Outside of personnel and e-resources, if you look at our budgets from year to year to year, most service-related line items have remained pretty flat. So that means that we're actually purchasing less materials than we have in the past due to rising cost and inflation. Finally, we have several capital projects that we built into the budget this year. Our roof needs to be replaced. If anyone's come to the library recently while it's raining, or even for the past couple of years, you will always see buckets out, which, water and books don't exactly mix well. But we also have other significant drainage issues that have come up this year that need to be addressed in the very near future, amongst other improvements. So that was my very quick overview of our 26-27 budget. Does anyone have any questions about that before I jump into Proposition L?
So with the purchasing fewer items, is that harmful? Like, are you like, oh, I really wish we could have gotten these things, but the budget just doesn't allow for a situation right now?
I don't know that harmful is the correct term, but it is a noticeable difference. It creates limitations about what we can or cannot purchase.
And the bond issue that we're talking about is capital and wouldn't.
It is a tax levy initiative. It's so it's for operating.
So it could also help with the collections.
Could help with collections, could help with staffing, roof, all of the above. Yes.
Okay, so it's not just limited.
It's not a limited levy. Yes.
I guess is a good segue to your.
Yes, you're really helping me move right in. Thank you. Any other questions about the budget? Okay, so Proposition L. Nothing happened when I clicked. There we go. Was that me? Is that you?
Not sure.
Okay. All right. So Proposition L. So the library is requesting a 12-cent levy to protect library services, maintain its facility, and ensure long-term financial stability. So obviously that's what I'm here to talk about. But before I jump into those details, I thought it was important to explain kind of how we got to this point. Thank you. So I'm going to take you guys back quickly, I promise. I'm going to take you back 75 years to when our current location on Lockwood first opened. It is our 75th anniversary in November of our building this year. We will be having a celebration, so feel free to join us in November. I would like to note that I could have taken you back 142 years. That's the actual beginning of the Webster Groves Public Library, but I figured for the sake of time, we'll just go back 75.
Thank you.
So when the building opened, thank you, it was about 10,000 square feet, all one floor. You might notice in the next slide that it looks pretty similar, but you can see we have one floor. This was our layout. The librarians dressed much better than I do today. But so this is what we had 75 years ago when the library first opened. Oh, yes, thank you. Can you go back one more? Oh, never mind. Okay, keep going. Thank you. All right, so you saw that layout, and as the community grew, the library grew with it. So you can see that this was our 10,000 square foot building, and there's not a lot of space going on, right? So our children's department is what is now our meeting room. There was no meeting room, so anytime there was a program, it was out in the middle of the library, which you can see is like around the public computers and not ideal. I figured we should have a picture of the card catalog just so we can see the card catalog because, it seems pretty important. So yeah, space became limited, which is eventually what led to our 2009 tax levy. So I would like to note that 2009 was over 17 years ago. And what this funded was the addition to our building. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. It funded the addition to our building. It doubled the size of the building. It added the upper and lower levels, created significantly more opportunities for the community to use the library. That just gives you kind of what is interesting about the building is that we are in the same lot. We doubled the size of our building, but we went up and down, so our actual footprint didn't change that much. I think my reference librarian said that it only took up 4 parking spots when they added this. That was the only big change, is that 4 parking spots went away, but we doubled the size of the building. So that brings us to the building that we know today, which I'm just showing that was 75 years ago, and that's the building today, but twice the space. So the building that we have today is only as valuable as what happens inside it. So what do we do all day at the library? This gives you a little snapshot of just what we did in 2025, so just 1 year. You can see that we had thousands of items borrowed, hundreds of programs. The community used our meeting room almost every day that we were open. We did over 6,000 passports, computer sessions, and then that's just items available in our actual library and is not including all of the items that you can get from libraries around the state of Missouri. And then there's even more. We're really a community hub. We try and support what's going on in the community. We've done food drives. We have an art gallery. We have printing, scanning, faxing. We have all kinds of community partnerships. We're a polling place. We do outreach. You're getting the idea, right? But you can go. What I want to talk about I want to narrow that down even a little bit further so I can really paint a picture for you guys. So I'm going to talk about what's happened in the last 5 days at the library. Since Friday, so we're going back to Friday. This past Friday, we've hosted a Missouri Caves program. We've had a tween painting program that had more than 33 tweens show up, tween. Which I don't know if you guys know how difficult it is to get teens into the library, but there were 33 of them. We had a mad science program, which was focused on the science of sound. We had over 55 people attend that program. We had a songwriting workshop. We had a preschool story time. We have a teen advisory board that's meeting right now. During those same 5 days, 4 community groups used our meeting room. We conducted an outreach event at Bethesda. We've had several tutors at the library every single day. We've processed 16 passports. We've signed up 64 people for summer reading. We've checked out more than 3,000 items. We've had over 250 hoopla checkouts, and we've interacted with hundreds of patrons. And that's just 5 days. The point I'm trying to make is simple. The library positively impacts the Webster Groves community every single day. The reason I share all of this is because the library isn't about books and it isn't about buildings, it's about people. The building and the budget simply allows us to serve those people every day. But in order for us to continue making that impact, we need a building that is safe and functional and well-maintained. The goal of Proposition L is not only to maintain the services our community depends on, but also to ensure the building itself can continue supporting those services for years to come. Thank you. So as I noted during my very brief budget presentation, the roof needs attention. We have drainage and plumbing issues that need to be addressed. In the last year, we had to do a full HVAC replacement, which meant taking $500,000 out of our reserves so that we could have heating and air conditioning. I apologize to anyone who was at the library this winter who had to keep their coat on to be comfortable enough to study. We have, and it's great that the library was able to use those reserves. It's wonderful that we had them and were able to use them to get our HVAC replaced, but it's not sustainable moving forward to keep depending on those reserves. There are concrete repairs on the horizon, electrical improvements that are needed, and after 13 years, there are just basic updates that need to happen, like paint and carpet. I've lived in my house for like 7 years now, and I can say that I've painted one room 3 times. I don't know what that says about me, but the library hasn't been painted in over 13 years, and it's a public space, and it shows. So the reality is that thousands of people use this building every year. And to continue providing the opportunities and services our community values, we have to invest not only in our programs and collections, but also in the facility that makes them possible. I'll have you go to the next slide. Thank you. So why does Proposition L matter? At its heart, the library is much more than a building full of books. It is one of the few places in the community where everyone is welcome. Every day, the library helps children build literacy skills, gives students places to study, provides access to technology and information, connects seniors to resources and programs, and offers community groups a place to gather. When people think about libraries, they often think about books. But what we're really providing is opportunities. The opportunity to learn, the opportunity to connect, the opportunity to discover something new, and the opportunity to improve your quality of life. The Webster Groves Public Library helps make Webster Groves a better place to live. Proposition L is about ensuring that we can continue doing that, not just today, but for future generations. It's about maintaining the service our community values. It's about caring for a building that has served Webster Groves for 75 years now. It's about making sure that the child attending Storytime today can bring their own children to Storytime someday in the future. It's about preserving a resource that has served Webster Groves for 100+ years and ensuring it remains strong for 100 more. Thank you.
Thanks, Madison. All right, and we have the QR code. Okay. And I'm sure I speak for council when I wish you all the best of luck this summer and into the campaign for the.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm also going to pass around summer reading bookmarks.
I don't think you're allowed to go anywhere.
Not
Councilmember
yet.
Smith.
I do have one question. So replacing your roof on the library, will any kind of solar panels be part of that, or it wasn't?
It's something that I have started looking into for grant opportunities. So it's something that I have been thinking about. We, a few years ago, got roof proposals, but we didn't move forward with it. And that was not included in those initial proposals, but it's something that I've been thinking about since.
Thank you.
We do have a very flat part of the roof that would work well.
And I have one correction of your presentation. You said you had hundreds of programs. You have over 250 programs. I mean, it's a lot. You guys do a great job at it too.
Thank you.
Okay, I think now you're free to go.
Sorry, I
Thank you
tried to
very
run
much.
away early.
Go check on those teens meeting, huh?
Right.
Okay, we will move on now to remarks from the community and visitors. I will remind everyone who's with us, this is a time for the community to make their thoughts known to us. It is not a time where council responds to specific comments that are made. My first card comes from Mr. Dave Buck.
Thank you. Let's put it in the last.
Dave Buck, Colonial Village Apartments. I want to present a new budgetary idea, and it's absolutely free and proven effective and long overdue. Here in Webster Groves, our resident advisory boards and commissions, there are 16 of them, I think are the backbone of City Hall. They are manned by highly educated residents in professional jobs and well-trained. Over the years, I have advocated for 3 new boards. One, a youth advisory board, which I'm glad we're doing. The senior advisory board, which I hope we need to happen because that's the biggest demographic megatrend in the nation today. And lastly, tonight, a citizens finance committee or board. Let's determine who has one. Kirkwood, Clayton, De Pere, Sunset Hills, Chesterfield, Shrewsbury, Ladue, Manchester, Crease Core, Brentwood, Crestwood, U City, Olivet, Ellisville, Town and Country, et cetera. But never in my 25 years have we had a citizens finance advisory board here in Webster. I don't know why. This takes nothing away from Joan Jadal, Eric Peterson, Greg, Scott. They do a great job. But the point is, we have some very smart, financially astute people who live in this town that, like any other board or commission, can sit down and give some free advice about where we're going. And the fact that we're now deficit, you are looking at a deficit, it's all the reason why we need to do that. There are people in this city like Frank Romano, Mark Hinkle, Ron Clipp, Stacy from Paisley, John Barr, Betty Bayer, Holland Salzman, Chris Waymeyer. I didn't even put Ben on this. Is that it's just people that can just look at it with fresh eyes and come up with some advice and hopefully some counsel. And all I'm saying is that I think Greg, Scott, staff does a good job, but look at the other boards and commissions. They do exactly the same thing. This is what the City Planning Commission does for you. And almost, I think, over 90% of the proposals that they recommend up to you, you guys rubber stamp.
Time.
They do a very important job.
Thanks,
And
Dave. Ben, that was a segue right to you, Mr. Ben Brookhammer.
Ben Brookhammer, 1371 Grant Road. So I spoke last meeting, wasn't really planning on a part two until about, I don't know, an hour and a half ago or so. When I spoke last time, I laid out my opinions on the budget, the economics behind it, the facts, and it became pretty clear pretty fast why I shouldn't just speak again, but why I needed to. My family, my friends, my neighbors, a lot of those in the community that I don't even know, who will all be impacted by this budget. I spoke about my future last meeting, and it's theirs too. We're all footing the bill for this absolutely irresponsible and out of control spending spree. In the explanation, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to call anybody out, but the interim city manager, this budget and the philosophy used to craft it as a ceiling and not a mandate, well, that doesn't make it okay. And if it's really a ceiling that you're not okay with hitting, then just cut it back before your vote. We hear excuses, taxpayers are gaslit. We get told that we only contribute a small amount of city revenue with graphics and some sort of effort to lessen the blow and lay the groundwork that spending is justified and increased taxes will be okay if that's what it takes. Well, look around us. Every facet of local government is grabbing at our wallets. The school board poised to significantly increase our taxes, the library, which does great things, but still another tax measure on the ballot. The county, a use tax measure coming up soon. It's hard to go 2 meetings in this building without hearing the same desire to take more. Enough is enough, and it's really not too late to make some cuts. And I talked about a stagnant economy last time I was here and what high taxes do. It might sound extreme, but Chicago or Los Angeles, New York, here people don't have to leave the state. They just have to drive like 2 minutes down the road to another municipality. There's ways to grow our economy, increase revenue, build something that we can all be proud of without losing our charm, cutting services, or raising taxes. I've seen it elsewhere in the private sector. I've seen it. I've also built it and delivered it myself. I know it's possible. Maybe that's the most frustrating thing, is seeing that opportunity is passing us by. We don't have to accept the status quo, but we have to do something. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Elizabeth Sparks Holmes.
Well, thank you.
Could you give us your full name and address, please?
Yes, Elizabeth Sparks Holmes. I am a Manchester, Missouri resident, 347-B Autumn Creek Drive, 63088.
Thank you.
The reason I'm here, and thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Elizabeth Sparks Holmes. I'm very honored to be standing here and talking to you about my candidacy for Missouri's 2nd District in the United States House of Representatives. Where I'm from, some people know me as the walking lady along Doherty Ferry Road and Forest Road. It's very exciting because I am embarking on a new trail and the campaign trail. I'm very interested in the young man that was speaking before me. It's people like him that have motivated me to seek the office that I'm seeking. And I would like to talk with him afterwards if I could. It's really exciting. The reason that I'm running for this office is that I know I can do a better job than the person who is currently our incumbent. We need a representative who is responsive to her constituents and allows access to her office at any time. Many individuals have taken time to express to me their true feelings about the incumbent, and I've heard about it on social media, from my neighbors, from business owners, and yes, from donors. They tell me they feel taken for granted, and I get that. I really do. In fact, my own husband and son don't even know who Representative Wagner is, literally. She does not attend town halls or forums or meetings like this. Look, I know raising money is important. I know that. I'm not discounting her ability to raise large sums of money of cash for the GOP. That's great. Money's important. As long as you show up here. And as long as you're meeting with residents here. And as long as you allow access to your office and to your staff and to yourself at all times here. Because public service is not just about money, it's about people. And people want to know where their money's going and how it's being spent. And so instead of having our voices be ignored and taken for granted, it's time for a new voice and a new tone and a new presence representing this district in Washington. Please do not hesitate to ever call me, text me, or email me about anything. And let me know what matters to you, because most importantly, please know I'm here no matter what. Lots of folks feel very alone and abandoned right now. They see the vitriol and the hatred in Washington. They're looking for a fresh start and a new message. So here's my message. I want to build something better, and I want to do it together. Am I out of time?
You are.
I'm sorry. All right.
No, that's okay. Thank you very much. Next we have Mary Graff.
Hi, my name is Mary Graff. I live at 1123 South Elm. I am here to talk about the pathway, the shared pathway. First of all, I'm disappointed that this has apparently been in the works for years, but the actual residents who live on South Elm were not even approached about this until a few months ago. And by that time, everything was pretty much set in stone. I've lived on South Elm for 41 years. My kids made it to school and back without a shared path. We don't see bicycles. We have a few neighbors that walk on South Elm, but not great amounts of people. The traffic, I know they say that narrowing all this, the lanes and everything, will reduce the speed. I don't see that happening. People are either rushing to get to the highway to get to work or rushing to get home. I don't think they're going to slow down. I really don't. I worry about the smaller lanes and fire trucks and trash trucks getting through safely. What about when the residents who, if we do lose our parking and they put the pathway there, what happens when we're getting a delivery, a big truck delivery or a moving van? Where will they park to get to our house? Will they have to park across the street? and transport everything across the street to our house? Because I think that shared use path is going to have a curb on it. I just wonder how that's going to work. And I don't know that anybody's addressed that with any of us. I was surprised to see this was going to be voted on tonight. Is that true? Because it seems like there's a lot to work out still. Most of the people I talk to don't want it. We wanted a sidewalk. That's all we ever wanted. But this pathway, I don't see how it's going to work. I guess that's about all I had, but like I said, I don't think it's going to slow traffic down. I really don't. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Becky Ballard?
Hello, I'm Becky Ballard. I live at 1119 South Elm Avenue. And Mary said just about everything I wanted to bring up, but just a few things. I wonder if you considered if e-bikes are going to be allowed on this shared path if it goes through, which I hope it doesn't, because e-bikes create a lot of speed and a lot of carelessness because they're mostly ridden by middle-aged kids who don't obey speed limits. And I would just like to reiterate what Mary said and about the speed limit. People drive too fast on Elm as it is, and I hope you would consider putting more stop signs in place and lowering the speed regardless if there is a path or a shared path. And I really hope you would consider just doing a sidewalk. That's all we need is a little sidewalk to get kids to school safely. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Eric Busson. Busson. Eric Busson. I think I've done that twice now. I apologize.
Guys are all good. They've been tearing it up my whole life. All right. My name is Eric Busson. I live at 11 West Old Watson, but my property is actually bordered on the side on South Elm. I spoke at one of these meetings previously, and I had a number of things to say. I didn't write anything last time, but I did this time. First of all, again, I don't know how this project got started, but it was years ago and without any public input. That's always stuck wrong with me. I don't understand what data was used or input was assessed to determine if this path was even needed. I know I've seen a lot of surveys and a lot of opinions about whether it's needed. It's a path to nowhere. I don't see the value add. I don't exactly know what you guys are going to vote on tonight. I've seen proposals for two plans, but is that what we're voting on? Both of these plans, at least the current plans, have opposition. I've seen you guys have done surveys, and there's people on both sides. People whose property is affected will suffer losses to their homes and their property values, of which I have not heard how those property values will be recompensed for the lost value. Those who lose parking will lose some access to parking, I'll agree, and obviously they're unhappy about that as well. But just because this project was conceived of and a grant obtained does not mean you're locked into doing it. There are other options. Don't do the project at all. Abandon the road resurface and put in a sidewalk. There are other options beside the two that I think that you guys were planning on voting on. If you insist on going forward with this, I believe removal of the parking is the least harmful to the people involved. But my opinion is there's just so many people who don't want it that I'm going to be really amazed if you push forward with it in light of that. That's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Laura Schultz.
Laura Schultz, 1519 Gardenia. If the process is flawed, any decision tonight will be flawed. I come before you once again to express my deep concerns about the flawed process and urge you to hold off on voting. The city did not present the first design plan to the city council or the public until March 26, 2026. After valid complaints were raised, the city announced a second design on May 8th. On May 15th, the city did an online survey about the two design plans, but I submit that survey was deeply flawed. First, it presented only binary options, pick design number 1 or design number 2, without any other option. Second, it was done on short notice through social media only, and that therefore any results are likely under-inclusive and flawed. In other words, it lacks any statistical significance. Third, even with those flawed and statistically insignificant results, the results were not so overwhelming to suggest that the second design is undeniably preferred over the initial one. 63% is by no means a supermajority. It is abundantly clear that the survey is being used to justify moving forward with this grant, regardless of what the most affected residents think. It is also abundantly clear that the most affected residents are deeply divided. Some are adamantly opposed to losing a large portion of their front lawn, structures, trees, etc. Others are adamantly opposed to losing street parking under Design 2. Both are valid concerns rooted in property value and safety. I think you will all agree with me that compromise is very important in governance. Here, the most evident compromise solution is not a 10-foot wide path, but a smaller sidewalk in the right-of-way that would both lessen the impact on the structures, trees, etc., and also preserve parking. Yet for reasons that remain very unclear to me, the city has refused to put forth a sidewalk design or provide any concrete numbers on what such a design would cost versus the current ones. The only reason I can divine for not including a sidewalk design in the survey is that it would undercut the justification for moving forward. This process should have been completed before the grant application, or certainly much earlier than just a few months before the deadlines in the grant process. Ask yourselves, how long did you spend considering the pool designs or the recent changes to residential garages? You spent months or years on those, but you were spending less than 3 months total considering the current designs. Why the rush? Is it because you failed to complete the proper process throughout the project? Spent is what presumably a large amount of money on a design number 1, which most people don't even like, and may have now backed yourself into a corner because deadlines are looming in the grant process? Let me be clear. The city's failure to conduct the proper process before these key grant deadlines and the city council's failure to hold employees responsible should not become an emergency for the residents. A broad mandate to add trails generally in Webster does not equate to a specific mandate to add a large trail to a residential thoroughfare. You are failing the residents and shirking your duties as a member by rushing this decision. I implore you not to move forward and to prepare a sidewalk option to the public before making any decision. Why are you refusing to do this? Thank you.
Thank you. Laura Foudy.
I'm Laura Foudy, 1105 South Elm Avenue. Good evening, council members. I would like to address the safety concerns associated with removing parking on the west side of South Elm. All of my points were also made by respondents to the referenced survey, and I'm taking this time to emphasize their importance. If parking is removed, residents and visitors, including elderly parents, like my own parents who care for our young children and caregivers will often have to park across the street and cross Elm to reach their homes. Where I live, just north of the fire station, vehicles traveling north frequently come speeding over the blind hill with little warning, as I'm sure the police would attest, since that's a place they frequently park to catch speeders. Crossing Elm in my area is a frightening experience, and requiring more residents and visitors to dart across the street would only increase the danger and risk of injuries and fatalities. I am also concerned about the traffic patterns that could result from concentrating parking on the east side of the street. Residents looking for available parking may be forced to make sudden U-turns or stop in busy traffic to parallel park, since space would be at a premium. This would create additional risks. The safety concerns extend beyond those who currently use on-street parking. Removing the parking lane would affect every resident on the west side of Elm because that lane currently serves as a buffer between the fast-moving traffic and our driveways. Residents backing out of their driveways benefit from the additional separation and visibility that the parking lane provides. Without it, vehicles will be backing directly into a travel lane carrying fast-moving traffic, creating increased risk of accidents. Finally, I suggest that retaining a parking lane between moving traffic and the shared use path would actually improve safety for pedestrians and cyclists on the path. A row of parked cars provides a physical barrier more visible and robust than bollards between the path users and passing vehicles. Removing the parking lane places pedestrians, runners, children, and cyclists even closer to moving traffic, reducing the safety for path users. While it may be true that this option to remove parking would inconvenience the fewest residents from a property standpoint, I hope the council will carefully weigh these safety implications against the inconveniences of other options. I want to be clear that I support efforts to improve pedestrian safety and connectivity and to create a sidewalk or a shared use path on South Elm. This improvement is sorely needed by pedestrians in the area. However, before making a permanent decision that will affect residents for decades to come, I urge the council to seek additional traffic and parking analysis and carefully evaluate all of the safety impacts, not only for path users, but also for the residents and their children and their parents who live along South Elm and navigate it every day. Thank you.
Thank you. John Foudy. No, did I say it wrong that time? Yeah. Okay.
Good evening. My name is John Foudy, 1105 South Elm Avenue. I'm a resident of Webster Groves, living directly on South Elm, and I will be directly impacted by the decision made tonight, assuming that the vote will actually decide whether or not we're going to move forward with this or not. I'm going to take my time to question the legitimacy of the survey that has been repeatedly cited as evidence for the community support for eliminating parking on the west side of Elm. I believe the survey should be viewed with caution and should not be considered a reliable measure of community consensus. First, respondents were presented with only two options, neither of which fully reflected the full range of alternatives that residents have discussed. Second, the survey lacked a clearly communicated closing date. In fact, my wife missed the opportunity to participate in the survey because we wrongly assumed that there would be a reminder email before the survey closed. I actually replied directly to the survey invitation email to ask when the closing date was, and I got no response. Third, and perhaps most importantly, I would like to address how the survey was disseminated to the public. Evidently, this was posted on social media. I didn't see that, but I heard that it was. But I'm not on Facebook or X or Instagram or however you posted it. The only reason I received a direct email about the survey is because I had attended the open house meeting at the rec center a few months ago. And the only reason I attended that was because my neighbor mentioned it to me in passing. Since the survey was only accessible online, I have serious concerns that some of our community members are not even aware of the survey, this meeting, or the project as a whole. We have some elderly residents who are not frequently on social media. And if you plan to make a major decision based on a survey like this, then the survey should have been done in person, door to door, with the goal of getting 80 to 90% participation from residents directly affected by the impacts of the decision. Anything less, I'm sure you'll agree, will look like you didn't plan well enough, nor advise the community sufficiently before making serious changes to their lives. In addition, the survey that was conducted included residents from throughout the surrounding area, many of whom will not be directly affected by the removal of parking. According to the city's website, it received 161 survey responses. Of those, only 21 respondents lived directly on South Elm. 92 lived in the surrounding South Webster area, and another 48 lived elsewhere in Webster Groves entirely. While all residents have a stake in city projects, only 13% of the survey respondents actually live on the street that would be directly affected by loss of parking. There are over 60 residential properties combined on the east and west sides of Elm in this area, so at best, the 21 responses you received may represent less than a third of the residents on Elm. This feels like a woefully inadequate number, especially since we know these folks will be impacted by this decision, and yet they have not been given equal chance to respond to these plans. I hope the council and the committee will carefully consider that reality when evaluating the survey results. The people who live on South Elm who rely on these parking spaces may regularly host family members, caregivers, and visitors, and they're the only ones who will experience the daily consequence of this decision. I would ask that you do not vote to move forward with this plan tonight, and instead step back and revisit other options as well as studies to see what the impacts would be. I do support the plan in general, getting a sidewalk. Thank you.
Right. Kaylee Irwin.
Perfect. Hi, my name is Kaylee Irwin, and I'm a resident of 1005 South Elm Avenue. It's going to seem like I copied off of theirs, but I've never met them before. I also had no idea about this survey. I didn't receive any information about it. I didn't see it on social media, and my husband can attest, I am on Facebook a lot. So that's troublesome that as someone that lives directly on South Elm, didn't get a chance to weigh in on this matter at all. But just for reference, our house is the northernmost house on the west side of South Elm, sharing the northern portion of our property with Annunciation. I'm going to try to keep it brief because I don't have a huge issue with the plan as a whole. I think increasing pedestrian traffic up and down South Elm is a good idea. I think there haven't been bikes and people walking on Elm because there's nowhere to bike or walk currently. But our issue is it's critical to the residents along Elm to keep parking lanes on both sides of the street. Not having a parking lane would increase the frequency of cars backing out onto Elm from driveways, as the parking lane serves for many as a means of safely backing into our driveways without backing into oncoming traffic. Trust me that backing onto Elm most hours of the day is not for the faint of heart, and God help you if you have a new driver that's trying to do that. Part of the charm of this town is our quaint homes, which also frequently come with quaint driveways, sometimes only fitting one car. Only having parking on one side of the street would increase foot traffic, with people crossing illegally to reach their homes across Elm, as there's no set crossing paths. This places an extra burden on anyone with mobility issues as well. There are no stop signs between Glendale and Old Watson, and it's not uncommon for people to speed along these stretches of roads, which also creates a hazard for those trying to cross the street. And speaking of speeding, without a parking lane, if a car is pulled over and there is no parking lane, it will fully impede traffic moving in that direction. And if there is an emergency vehicle approaching, there's no egress to allow for that emergency vehicle to pass. And most importantly, parking on the 4th of July fireworks will be even more insane. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Clark O'Tailing.
Good evening, Clark Hoteling, 118 West Cedar Avenue. I do want to remind everybody, and it was mentioned here, that the streets of Webster belong to all of us. And I think that's an important thing for us to remember, that the streets belong to all residents. I've been a member of the Webster Groves Traffic Advisory Commission for the past 4+ years, and we've heard from dozens and dozens of Webster Groves citizens pleading with us each month to make Webster Groves streets safer for all users, implementing traffic calming measures, enhancing crosswalks, and make safer pathways for children getting to school via foot or bike. Not one person has ever come to our commission asking for the opposite. Complete Streets, which is your pillar number 6 of the aspirational comprehensive plan of Webster Groves, which was discerned by hundreds and hundreds of residents, provides a framework for planning, designing, and operating roadways that safely and comfortably accommodate all users, regardless of their age, ability, or mode of transportation. This includes pedestrians, cyclists, motorists, public transportation riders of all ages and abilities. The South Elm Shared Pathway is a great step in upgrading the infrastructure that is greatly needed throughout the city to turn our aspirations into reality, as well as addressing the requests of those that have voiced their concerns and wants to our Traffic Advisory Commission. And like the painting of utility boxes in the library, shared paths make our community more human. Finally, please update your city ordinances to make the responsibility of maintaining shared paths the city's responsibility and not that of the homeowners that live in proximity. Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone on? Oh, we already have a hand raised, so we will start with Christy Phelps. If you give us a second, we will allow you to talk. I believe you should be able to talk now.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you everyone for your time. I just wanted to follow up and mention my support. Oh, I'm Christy Phelps and I live at 1115 South Elm Avenue. I wanted to say that I support almost all of the comments that I have heard so far at this meeting. I did primarily want to discuss how the survey is being used. I know my neighbor at, I believe, 1105 did a great job of that. An additional piece I wanted to put with that was that if you read through a number of the comments that go with that survey, they specifically state the preference for a smaller, narrower sidewalk option as opposed to the large 10-foot wide path. I was a bit disconcerted to see that the survey results were used to show that there was support for the shared use path when so many of the open-ended comments did lead to this alternate route. And in addition to that, previously the city has presented us with the idea that a ADA accessible sidewalk needs to be 6 feet wide. After doing some research on that myself, I have found that that is in fact not the case per the Americans with Disability Design Guidelines. And 5 feet is actually the minimum for a two-way passing lane with an alternate option for, I believe it's a 3-foot wide sidewalk with a landing every 200 feet for passing space, which could be accommodated at the ends of driveways. I would just very strongly urge the city council to rethink some ideas that involve better communication from those directly impacted. I agree that sidewalks and better pedestrian traffic flow in the city is one of our comprehensive plan pillars, and I would love to see that opportunity fulfilled. I just do not believe that the currently proposed solution with the shared use path on Elm is meeting those requirements in the most effective way for the community members in the area. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe Joan McGivney also has her hand raised. You should be able to unmute yourself right now.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Thank you for, I'll be glad to voice my opinion. I definitely feel we should have some kind of pedestrian sidewalk or road area on South Elm. I've been a resident of 40 plus years, and I do like the walk in the areas, and I'm always sad that we don't have anything on Elm. I actually was on the city council many moons ago where we did I saw what it was in Ladue and how they had the striped streets on this parking. So I encouraged at the time that we should at least put the markings for the parking so that people didn't feel that they could drive on those areas. So I'm following up on that. I have a couple of questions. Number one, I'm concerned about the speed that there are, if you go with the existing plan, what the speed of the vehicles would be. Like one person said, the speed of some of these e-bikes can be pretty fast. Right? That's not really good for people who are on walkers or some kind of pedestrian helping things for less of us seniors. And then number two, I saw that there are sidewalks between I-44 and St. George. And that's on the west side. So I was concerned how people would be able to cross if the other new side were going to be on the other side and how they would get across. Those are my comments. And again, I think I am concerned about the people on Elm, but I'm also concerned for the greater use of this for Webster Groves residents using walking areas and mobility. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else online? Please go ahead and use the raise your hand function right now. Okay, I do not see any additional hands, so that will bring our community comments, remarks from community and visitors to a close. And we will move on now to our new business. And this is the first time we're going to do this. One of the things we wanted to do was to make sure that we were served the community very well and for a significant period of time. So one of the things we're going to start to do now is announce the anniversaries of our employees, but also when certain employees get certifications and professional development things that are important to doing the job for us here in Webster Groves. We're going to acknowledge those as well. I'm going to start this time, but we're going to rotate this as a council responsibility. We have years of service recognition for this evening. Robert Graff has been in the police department for 10 years now, full decade. Owen Cruz and Devin Hale have both been with our Parks and Recreation department, for 5 years. And so we appreciate those years of service from all three of these people who are committed to those of us who live in Webster Groves. All right, Councilmember Mitchell, we're going to move on to unfinished business. Could you call for the third reading of Bill number 9304, please?
Yes, I'd like to call for the third and final reading of Bill 9304.
Second.
And call for the discussion about.
Second.
Bill 9304, third and final reading. An ordinance defining the pay grades of the classified and unclassified service of the city of Webster Groves, fixing the compensation for employees in said classifications, and repealing ordinance 9282.
All right, is there any discussion? Let's go ahead and have the vote then, please.
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander,
Yeah.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd,
Yes.
Councilmember Wah,
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell, Mayor Arnold.
Yes. All right, we'll move on to new business court update, and we're going to just briefly get an update on our provisional judge selection. Councilmember Wah, I know you spoke to our prosecuting attorneys, and they had some recommendations for us. Do you mind sharing?
I would be happy to share those. The primary recommendation was that you want a municipal judge that understands your municipality and has experience in municipal court. Based on that recommendation, my recommendation to the council, do you want me to give my recommendation?
Yes, please do.
My recommendation to the council would be to go ahead and post this position as available on our website or wherever that standard places that we post those, and then have those in the know encourage folks that in the community to apply.
Want to make any other comments to that recommendation, Mr. City Attorney?
What we would do then is, of course, gather that information and make a recommendation to the council of those people that fit the mode best, having looked at those people that have experience, and then would make recommendations to you that would allow you to all make a choice that's a narrowed choice.
So if I understand correctly, the idea here for a narrower search, because it's not a advertise everywhere search, is that we would focus on contacting people who have experience. So we're limiting that pool. I know our last pool, we had quite a few people who didn't have any municipal judicial experience.
Yes, ma'am. That's what we're doing.
Okay. Is in your estimation, a July 31st into the month close of that so that we can hopefully have somebody in place in fall reasonable?
Yes, ma'am. That is reasonable.
Okay. May we add that to the recommendation?
The deadline at the end of July.
Is that recommendation satisfactory with council? So then we'll work with Sherry in HR and get that on ball rolling. Okay. Looks like we are having a few technical difficulties here.
Still streaming, so it's just the screen that's locked.
Okay.
Yeah.
The top. Go to attendees
Yeah, the three dots.
and do the first one.
Oh, and here we are. Okay. We will then move forward on the discussion of the South Elm overlay and multi-use path. And Sanan, you look like you're ready to go. Right, you are doing our presentation. And I do want to make one mea culpa here. When they said that there was a city source that about requirements for ADA, I am the one who misspoke on that in an email. I apologize for that. I have since learned more about it. So I apologize for the confusion there. Please go ahead.
Mayor Arnold, members of the council. The project update that I'd like to share with you is very similar to our May meeting. And so our project, we can actually maybe go on to the next slide, wanted to go over our design currently on this project, which the first cross section, these are street cross sections on South Elm Avenue. We're looking south, and the current street width is it consists of 9-foot wide parking lanes, both on the east and the west side, and then 12-foot wide driving lanes, one in each direction. On the east side, we have a restriction regarding the utility poles, the 9.5-foot wide right of way. On the east side, it exists, but that curb actually is closer to that utility pole than it looks on that picture. There's only about a foot space between the two, and the utility poles are a restriction. As I understand, project initiation predates me, but that was the reason why the east side was not an option for our shared use path. This cross section, I failed to inform you. This is, of course, between the South Elm Avenue, between Glendale Avenue and Watson Road, Route 366, and the west side is the more open area that includes the 8.5-foot wide right of way. I believe we can just use round numbers. Generally, we consider about 6 inches of curb width on the edges, along the edges of the street pavement. So we have about 9 feet width on the east side of the road, and then 8 feet on the west side. A lot of amenities we call, I think, as for the discussions purposes of this discussion, infrastructure on the west, along the west side of the street, such as fences. A lot of natural development, of course. There's some trees, bushes, very beautified zones in the public right of way. I'd like to remind you, before we reach the property line where our right of way stops. Within our public right of way is what we use, that width is what we use for public projects, improvement projects, because that way we don't take in a right of way. It's within our limits. We work on these projects. Anytime we go over the property line is if we impact any private improvements, and they need to be either graded differently, something needs to be removed and replaced outside of our public right of way. We generally do those under easements, and those are temporary easements, because we get into outside of our right of way, just temporarily do that work, and then get back and restore those areas to the acceptance of our property owner, adjacent property owner. What you probably also don't see on this cross section is we have driveways in that area at certain intervals to provide accesses to the garages of our residents on the west side. Both sides of the road we have driveways, and the grading of the road as opposed to the edges outside of the road varies, so that driveway is what provides that connection between the edge of the roadway pavement, and the floor of the garage of our residences. Our preliminary design, as you have discussed before with us, we have discussed with you, is the second strip picture up there. That is a I forgot to mention also our right of way. If you add up those numbers, it's 60 feet. 60 feet right of way is what we have. We're not proposing any changes to it. Within that 60 feet, to be able to fit this, fit a 10-foot wide shared use path, we propose, we preliminarily propose, and still that's our preliminary design to date, narrowing the parking lanes about 1 foot, driving lanes about 1 foot, and effectively shifting our street to the east, the street pavement to the east, and building the shared use path outside of our pavement, street pavement along the west side of the street for a 10 feet width, leaving us about 2 feet of right of way width outside of that shared use path. So with this, we come closer to the properties. We therefore need to remove about 20 trees along the west side of the road, make a lot of changes to the driveways that exist in that area that the pictures don't necessarily show, and it's not always flat. When it's not flat, you have a grade to climb up on. And so when we flatten the part of the grade that we show, of course, our 10-foot wide shared use path need to be flat or as close as possible to flat. That is about 2% maximum slope that is allowed on that. Then we have to make that connection starting with the 2 feet of allowed width for us to back to the driveways and back to the garage floors and all that. That can pose some challenges, which we have seen in the publicly available preliminary design drawings that showed some steep driveway slopes and such. And so based on the input that we received out of the March public open house, the discussions of our council after that, the preliminary design was enhanced with an option B. So option A is our preliminary design. Option B, then these are the, I believe, survey designations for our options to now bring us back to that, again, the 8.5 foot wide, 8 feet wide, really accounting for the curbs distance, so that when we build our shared use path, we can still manage those grades, keep as much as possible the natural amenities in the area, fences, and various improvements over the years that our residents may have even contributed developing in that area and maintained. However, as physically as you see, there is only 60 feet out right away, and this means we're going to lose out on something, and that is the parking lane on the west side, along the west side of the street, that is eliminated on this cross section, with everything else being the same. And we propose a 2 feet wide buffer area in between the shared use path, 10 foot wide, the same width of shared use path, and the nearest adjacent driving lane, that is our southbound driving lane. The buffers are something that is not really, there are not really widely accepted design standards about buffers. We show a bollard there. Bollards are not a must on buffers. They help, if they help guide traffic, they are useful. They have to be crash worthy. Crash worthy means that they have to withstand vehicle impact on those if that happens, and so that protects the users on either side of it. They need to be considered for the users on the shared use paths, such as limiting the travel area. If bollards are not used, other treatments that can be implemented in that area are surface treatments, like different color or textured pavement, so that especially the shared use path users know where the delineation is and don't go over the curb to the other side of where the vehicular lane exists. And there are other ways to do this. such as we don't have a raised pavement such as what we show here, but the pavement actually raised pavement for the shared use path, but we are at actually the roadway grade. If we are at the roadway grade, then we really don't need to even use bollards. They can help. They can help enhance the use. But when there is a curb that is considered that there is a curb, face of curb in any near any adjacent to any travel path, that's considered a delineation of the travel path for the users. And so, but what we propose here, in fact, if it's a raised shared use path, such as was proposed on our option B strip picture, is that as you see, the 8 feet wide right of way is still the same. The distance is still the same, and the pavement surface actually now our pavement, our asphalt roadway pavement that exists currently in that area is lower. We're raising it up, and so that's actually that can for uphill driveways that can actually improve the slope conditions. And the intent with this would be that we would not necessarily outside of here and there, some instances we would not have to remove any landscaping, no trees. We don't have to remove, in this case, we won't have to remove any fences. Those can still remain. Therefore, the project cost gets reduced quite a bit, and some advantages can be gained. However, the parking lane of the southbound lane on the west side of the street won't anymore be there. I think Jordan picks up.
Yes, I was asked to talk about the survey. Jordan Rowe, Public Affairs and Engagement Manager for the city. The survey essentially was asking residents about the placement of the shared use path. And just going back to the previous slide, option A, putting the path in the adjacent right of way, or option B, which was removing the west side parking using the existing roadway footprint. So this survey was conducted from May 15th to May 27th. We did publicize the survey via the city's website, social media, and our external newsletter, which is called What's Up Webster. There was also an article that appeared in the May 22nd edition of the Webster Kirkwood Times. As you can see from the slide, we received 161 responses, and you can see the breakdown by area. Around 63% preferred option B, removing west side parking and placing the shared use path in the existing roadway footprint. And support for this option was consistent across all respondent groups. That includes the residents who live directly on South Elm who took the survey. The survey was conducted through SurveyMonkey, and they identified 5 themes in the analysis of the survey data and the public comments. The first theme was impact to private property. Residents expressed their desire to protect the existing front yards and landscaping, reducing driveway disruptions, limiting right-of-way utilization, and maintaining the character of the neighborhood, particularly with concern for mature trees. The second theme was centered around just desired safety improvements. Many residents are wanting a dedicated, separated facility for walking, running, and cycling that will also improve access to nearby schools and amenities. And while residents, preferred option B, generally, there were still some concerns expressed about the loss of parking, particularly for residents on the west side of the street that have limited driveway access. However, others were noting that west side parking is less used. We do want to share in the fourth theme that there was a notable segment of the community that expressed questions about the project scope, about the funding priorities, specifically whether this project was necessary, and also if a standard sidewalk could be installed instead. Some of the comments suggested redirecting these funds to other more urgent roadway repairs. Residents sought clarity on how the path would integrate into the broader bike and pedestrian network. Finally, several respondents indicated that they would have preferred a no-build option for this survey, just to maintain the existing conditions on South Elm.
The final theme, again, identified by SurveyMonkey, was traffic and construction concerns, with questions just over the long-term responsibility for the shared use path once it is, or once if it is built. There were also some residents who voiced the need for safety improvements at crossings near Glendale and Watson Road. Just to close, I want to share that these are broad themes, again, identified by SurveyMonkey based off of the data. The individual public comments are available to review at our website, and that's webstergrovesmo.gov, and you can just search South Elm. Again, all the comments are available to review.
Jordan, real quick on the What's Up Webster. So that's something that folks can sign up for, and they can get either an email or a text message and list all the stuff in the survey was indicated on there. Correct? As well.
Correct, yeah.
And all the other ways you said, Webster Kirkwood Times, the website, and our social media platforms.
That's correct.
So it was out in multiple different ways. Yep. So I created this view this week after reading a lot of the survey results and some of the emails that have come in and the questions about why we didn't put out a sidewalk only. After the original open house, most of the comments, from my understanding, the way I heard it, was that we were wanting to protect the green space and the infrastructure, the driveway access, retaining walls that are already along the roadway and things of that nature. So we didn't put a sidewalk only option out there. As you can see on that bottom picture, if you added a sidewalk only option, a sidewalk only has to be 4 feet. That's right. According to MoDOT, according to ADA, according to AASHTO, sidewalks only need to be 4 feet. They are recommended to be 5 feet, but if they're a 4-foot sidewalk, it has to have a 2-foot buffer between the curb and the sidewalk. That's where you usually see that strip of grass. So in reality, you're 6 feet back from the back of curb. You can make it a little bit smaller by doing it right at the curb, which is what the county just did along Watson Road. They're doing on Manchester Road, where they have made that right up against. And so instead of doing the 5 foot, which is the recommended, plus the 2-foot barrier, you can just do 6 foot right at the curb length. But even if we did that 6 foot, we're still dramatically out into that green space. We are going to be losing the trees that people said they wanted, the fences that people had wanted, the yard space, the flower beds, all that stuff would still be impacted. And so that's why we did not put it as an option. Additionally, a 4-foot or 5-foot sidewalk would not meet the benefit for the grant that we applied for. That grant, which has to be, which was scored by East West Gateway against all the other grantees that put in at that time, would not have gotten it. And if we would try to go back to just a sidewalk and not a 10-foot multi-use pathway, we would have to go back to East West Gateway. They would rescore our project. We would likely then not qualify for the project, and they would award our money to the next city on the list that had a higher score than us. There are certainly other grants out there that you can apply for just sidewalks. This grant that we applied for was not for that. It was for a multi-use pathway. So that's why we didn't offer that sidewalk only option. So I just wanted to create this graphic so folks could see that.
Just in pertaining to this graphic in particular, one of the things is, this is still, as you've pictured it here, on the west side of the street.
Correct.
Right? And the existing sidewalk is on the east side of the street.
Correct.
Would it be possible, and I'm sorry, I know that this is counterfactual. You don't know the answer because we're not measuring everywhere, but for Sanan and for you, if we flipped it over and continued the sidewalk that exists, I mean, we still have to do all the right-of-way stuff, right? It doesn't change it goes 6 feet in. What sense do we have about utilities in that point?
We would all those utility poles would be in that sidewalk or in that 2-foot barrier. We would have to work around all those, which would be difficult. And again, we would lose that federal grant that would pay for any of that work. And the federal grant is not just for this sidewalk multi-use path. It is for mill and overlay of the entire roadway, which is more than half of the project is for the mill and overlay. So we would lose the grant funding of $2 million that would renovate the roadway of Elm Avenue and add this pedestrian and cyclist multi-use pathway. So no matter which side of the street you tried to put just a sidewalk on, we're very confident that we would lose that grant if we had to go back and get rescored on that grant.
Scott, so the grant is 1 million or 2 million?
The federal grant is $2 million for us, and then we've got matching portions of it that take it up to close to $3 million total project.
But we were thinking we would throw in $1 million for this, kind of.
The city would put in about $1 million. The
Okay.
feds would put in $2 million.
Great. So if we just tried to do just the sidewalk, as you just described, and we'll most definitely lose the grant, how much would that little sidewalk cost? I know that might be out of the blue.
Likely less than $1 million, but I wouldn't recommend that. I would put that money towards the roadway. The roadway's in worse condition and the road needs to be done. Sanan can talk more about roadway ratings, but roadways are rated on a 10-point scale. We were at a 5.5 when we applied for the grant a few years ago. We're certainly below a 5 now, which means that roadway is, in need of repair and needs to be redone. And so if we were to scrap this and walk away from the federal funding, I would recommend that the city would need to come up with funds to do the roadway before we did anything else. And that'd be, $1 million+ out of pocket that we don't have budgeted right now, for just the roadway.
Okay, thanks.
So we've talked about different projects that we could do from our reserves. I don't think that this was ever anything that was considered because we were considering the grant.
Correct.
For it. But I mean, is that an option if we went with the sidewalk? And because again, we've got the rotating mill work that we do on the different streets around the city and what have you. At some point, this would have been coming up on that rotation. But did we just exclude it from the rotation because we were considering the grant?
Yeah, because the federal government was going to give us the money to do the roadway. So I'm not sure when that next section of South Webster comes up in the next roadway reconstruction. It is on a rotating basis.
2029 and 2030.
Okay, other questions? I think you can continue.
So next slide, Jordan. So my recommendation, our recommendation as staff, all of us, is to move forward with the option B. We feel that that's the most responsive to the input that we've received as from the community, both at the open house and from the survey results, and addressing and keeping the green space, protecting the private infrastructure of the trees and the driveways and the fences and the landscape walls. It does keep the federal $2 million grant funding. Likely option B will lower our overall project cost. We haven't had that. Option B has not been fully designed by our engineer of record on this project yet. We created that in-house, but Sanan and I are pretty comfortable that, if you reduce a lane of pavement that we would be putting down, we wouldn't be building that parking lane. We would save construction costs there. We also wouldn't be impacting the driveways, so we wouldn't incur additional costs to redesign and change those driveway layouts. And option B actually will be a little bit better for stormwater management than the original option A. Again, you're reducing about 8 foot worth of hardscape, which will keep the current stormwater about the way it is now with the roadway that's there. So our recommendation to council is to move forward with option B and start the design process with our engineer on that. Once we get that designed out, then we would bring it back to the public and to council and show that design off again like we did in March with the preliminary design. Your other options would be to continue down the road with the option A, or walk away from the project and not do this grant. We could try to turn that money back over to East West Gateway and see if they are able to reallocate it to another municipality for another project within the timelines of that federal grant funding. That would likely be tough for them to utilize that funds elsewhere. So ultimately, it would probably be a loss of that federal funding to our region, which could impact us in future federal grant rounds for our region, but specifically for Webster Groves when we go to get scored again with another grant through East West Gateway or MoDOT. They would likely take that in consideration that we didn't follow through on the one that we just gave back.
Question, Scott Sanan. So we've looked at the passability of trash trucks, emergency vehicles, and things of that nature. There will be any kind of impact if trash trucks go down? Would it back up traffic?
So I've talked to both fire department and police department. Neither one of them have any qualms about reducing the parking lane. The fire trucks drive through streets that are narrower than that already around Webster. Their drivers won't have problems maintaining that. They're not worried about people not being able to get out of the way. There'll still be, you can still pull off onto a side street. You can just pull over to the curb, and whichever emergency vehicle will pass you in the center, they'll do what they need to do to get around. Yes, when there's garbage trucks there, it'll slow folks down. But it'll be very similar to Elm out here right by City Hall. There's no parking lanes there. So when a landscape truck, a garbage truck, an Amazon truck, whatever is on that street, it'll be very similar where you have to, wait your turn and drive around that vehicle across the center line to keep moving.
What about snow removal?
Snow removal on the street won't be an issue either way. We are still researching some additional equipment needs to maintain the path. What we will likely do is get a blade for one of our little utility vehicles that we've got in the parks or down at the service center, and use that to plow the road, the multi-use path. Thank you. We are, Deputy City Manager Booklist has been working on either resolution or ordinance on that maintenance needs for the multi-use path. We were planning on bringing that to council and exempting those multi-use paths from our current ordinance that says that, homeowners need to maintain the sidewalks. So we wouldn't ask the residents to maintain those sidewalk, the multi-use path. We would clear it ourselves.
I think it's important that we do that by ordinance though, so that there isn't sometime down the road, someone who thinks, well, it was just a informal agreement. It protects the residents. Should we go forward with this that way? Right. Other.
So you said that in recommending option B, the cost or for doing that is basically you guys have looked at that to see what you think it would be, but it still needs to go out to get the price or the cost of doing that fully vetted.
Yes, ma'am. And it has not been designed yet. The preliminary design our engineers worked on for a few months to come up with that preliminary design, the option A. After the open house, our in-house staff, myself and Sanan and some other folks worked on that option B to create an alternative that we could discuss, but we have not had that designed by the consulting firm on this project that's doing all the engineering and stormwater and everything else on that yet. So that's what we're asking council to make a decision on tonight is which way do you want to move forward? If you choose option B, we will start that process with our design firm for them to start doing that engineering work and start redrawing and redesigning everything with this option B in mind.
So, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say,
Go ahead.
again, let's talk, if we go forward with option B, you said their design is there. Clearly, one of the problems or challenges of option B is crossing the street. And we know in that stretch right now, we don't have crosswalks. Can we write into the instructions to the designers to come up with not only crosswalks, but, you know, we have our, I wanted to say safe SS4A grants in which we're doing some of these projects about traffic calming. This seems to me like option B, assuming it goes forward, is the perfect place to implement something like a raised crosswalk. So you're forcing people to slow down whether or not a pedestrian there is there, or one in which you flash and you know you press the button and the light says you have to stop for the pedestrian. It's certainly not going to be enough for us to just paint some stripes on the pavement and say that's enough. I mean, I know, having been up and down there a lot over these last several months, it seems like there's a very logical place by the firehouse to put a pretty robust crosswalk. But traffic engineers are going to have to figure out other places, I think, for this to happen. Because if we're going to do this, the last thing we want is injury because people are crossing the street. And anything we can do to slow them down is a good thing.
Yes, we can do that. We can certainly look at it with our design team to all those various options, flashing beacons, stop signs, stop lights. We can look at all of those things.
You didn't say raised crosswalk.
Raised crosswalks.
Okay.
Fun painted side crosswalks that look like they're 3D raised. Yes, we can look at all those things.
So our decision tonight is saying move forward with the design of, not necessarily move forward with the project in total.
Correct. It would be move forward with the design, but if you're questioning moving forward with the project at all, now is the time to have that decision before we go spend more money on more design work.
Sure. But we will get an opportunity to look at it.
Yes, we'll absolutely have an opportunity to come back and look at it, and if needs more amendments, more changes, more additions, subtractions, whatever that may be, there will be another opportunity to look at that. Yes.
So what you're looking for, council, tonight is to say we would like to move forward with Plan B, so you guys can get started on the drafting of the design.
That is my recommendation. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I think we do have to structure this in two choices. One is, do we move forward? And two, do we move forward with option B? And I guess, we can do it by simply voting up or down on the city manager's recommendation first. And then if that is not to go forward, then we'll vote up or down on moving forward with A or not at all. Because after we vote on B and A, there is no other option at this point. So, but I think it's fair because it is the city manager's recommendation to start with the city manager's recommendation. But I have a couple other questions before we do any of that, and I think some other people do as well. Emily, you're looking at me like you have questions. Go ahead then. I've already taken some time.
I had questions about the maintenance, and we've talked about that. I have questions about safety for pedestrians crossing. We've kind of talked about that. Having those in place. We talked about, public safety vehicles and delivery and all of that. And we do have other streets in Webster that experience that. And we've all seen that and dealt with that. I think that I just kind of wanted to acknowledge that there's no perfect decision here. Like if it's, there has long been a community request for more, sidewalk path, what have you, in that area. Mixed use is also something that's popular. So we've kind of gone through that, but not doing anything isn't great. Doing, A has drawbacks, B has drawbacks, sidewalk has drawbacks. So I just wanted to acknowledge the public engagement. I really appreciate people bringing things forward, and we know we're not going to be able to please everybody. There's not one option that would do that. And so we have to take all that into consideration. That's really all I have.
Both ends here. We'll start with Leanne.
I appreciate you acknowledging the community engagement because that has been very important. I wanted the sidewalk only option, as you had it drawn, went into the right of way of those yards. I assume that was for simplicity because of the financial impacts of that, and that we wanted to acknowledge that there would be a possibility of putting in a sidewalk and removing the driving lane, removing that parking lane. There was a lot of different iterations, but the financial aspects of that, I think, cut that off at that point. Is that
For the sidewalk only?
for the sidewalk only option?
Well, it's twofold. Yes, obviously the grant money, $2 million is a lot of money to walk away from. But the other thing was, I had heard quite a bit that the infrastructure and the green space was important, and that residents didn't want to lose that. If you add that sidewalk in there, the difference between 6 foot from the back of curb to the edge of the sidewalk or 10 foot is not that great of a difference. It's 4 foot. It's 4.
Please, let's let him speak.
I would appreciate public comments since you're bringing up a lot of new information that we haven't had an ability to respond to.
We have had our period of public comment. You are welcome to contact anyone outside of the meeting.
So that 4 feet difference would still be taking up a lot of that infrastructure, and drive would change all those driveway slopes again that residents had said they didn't want to be impacted by.
Thank you.
Just one question maybe for either of you or both of you. Do we know, so now we're talking about taking out that, the parking, like going to option B, and the roads would be a little narrower and would lower the speed limit, and then maybe we'd do this curb thing. Has there been any studies or any talk about changing traffic patterns when all this happened in a good way, in the sense that with people, we've heard a lot about Elm being very busy during rush hour and people trying to get to and from the highway. Would it lessen? Would people find other alternative routes?
I don't know if it would send people to alternative routes. Typically, when you narrow roadways, driving lanes, it does cause a reduce in speed. It makes drivers feel more comfortable the wider open the space is, and so it doesn't feel like you're going as fast if it's a wide open space. The narrower that space is, the slower drivers typically drive. There's plenty of studies that show that, and somebody says it much more eloquently than I just did. But reducing those driving lanes by a foot each, and if you eliminate the parking on the western side too, would also narrow that whole roadway, and it would make it feel tighter, and it would slow people down naturally.
So with the either voting to take the recommendation or so if we look at what's on the consent agenda, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement for consulting services related to the South Elm Avenue right of way, is that an assumption that the recommendation is taken?
Yeah, if we vote not to move forward, then that gets pulled from the consent agenda and it just disappears. And we can still pull it and vote on it individually if we are to that point. But yes, it was in the same way some of the budget related stuff is in anticipation of us passing the budget tonight.
So if you go with either A or B option, we would need that right of way money that's in the consent agenda. It might be less if there's option B. That money, that contract is structured as a not to exceed. So if we're using option B, we won't be encroaching outside of the right of way. hardly at all, if at all. So there will be a lot less of that money used. Option A would utilize almost that entire agreement.
Any other comments? I just want to check my list here of things. I appreciate one of the comments about e-bike speed today too, because I do think that is a general problem that at some point we're going to have to deal with. I also, thank you, Emily. I agree with you that there's nothing that we're going to do that's going to make everyone happy. And I do want to say, I appreciate everyone who's here. And you've been talking about it as a neighborhood street. And, to be honest, this is a major north-south thoroughfare. And we do need to work to do what we can do to slow traffic down. But that hasn't changed in decades, and I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. And so we're going to have to deal with safe passageway of people there. Thank you. Yes, I understand. I'll acknowledge that we could have done the process better, but I don't honestly know that we would get anywhere else in terms of what our available options are. You know what? It's my fault for engaging, but we're going to have to finish up here. So we do have, is there anyone else who has comments or questions for either Sanan or for Scott?
No.
All right, then do we need an actual motion, please, on the city manager's recommendation? Councilmember Alexander, will you make that motion, please?
I'd like to make a motion on the city manager's recommendation.
So it would be to accept the city manager.
To accept the city manager's recommendation.
Second.
All right, you can go ahead.
Yes. Councilmember Alexander?
If we don't accept that recommendation, then the option is to do what?
To vote on option A, or if we don't accept option A, then nothing.
And option A is doing I'm sorry, because this is too much, this is a lot. And I'll just make a comment too. Yeah, this definitely could have been done differently, because for this to be so big, I know we get a lot that's put before us, but I don't recall 2 years ago, over the last 2 years, talking about this and what it was going to look like. I just don't recall us doing that. So this seems like a lot. Now, I mean, I get that it's been information out there. It's a lot to take into consideration. I know we got to do something, and I know that it's no way that it's going to please everybody. I'm just uncomfortable because I don't really understand. I understand that if we don't move forward now, that's funds that we are not going to be able to utilize to address the street, the safety of the street, the work that needs to be done there, the use for the overall community. And I'm going to say no, because I'm just confused. I'm confused.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd?
Yes.
Councilmember Waugh?
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell?
Yes.
Mayor Arnold?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
All right, so you'll move forward with design. We'll come back with design, taking into account what we've discussed tonight as well as the previous comments.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. We will now move on to consideration of the budget. All right, there is one budget amendment, or two budget amendments that I would like to make. The first one is, and I believe that you all got a copy in your packet. It is to transfer within the city council budget $4,000 essentially from our travel and conference account to our advertising account. And the idea would be to support an educational campaign for the county's use tax. Councilmember Hassemeyer was going to make the second, so I've made the motion. Is
A second.
all right.
We mark this one as FY 2703.
Yes. All right, so there's a motion has been seconded. Are there any questions or discussion? Okay. Let's have the vote, please.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd,
Yes.
Councilmember Wah,
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Yes.
Mayor Arnold,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander.
Right, the second is related. It adds $1,000 to the City Council 830 account to cover the rest of what would be needed for the educational campaign. I've made the motion.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Maybe we mark that one as
Number
FY
4.
2704, please.
So that's a total of 5,000.
That is correct. Right, I think we can have the vote.
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Wah,
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Yes.
Mayor Arnold,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander, Councilmember Hickson Shepherd.
Yes.
All right, next on our list here, or actually, I guess I should ask, are there any other amendments to the budget? Okay, then Councilmember Smith, could you call for the adoption of Resolution 2026-49?
Yes, Mayor, I'd call for the approval of Resolution 2026-49.
Second.
All right, is there any further discussion of the budget? We've spent a couple months on it now. I will take one last time to thank all of the directors, and please give your thanks to all of all the people who worked with you, staff members, to put together the budget. We are grateful for that work. Let's go ahead and have the budget vote.
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Mitchell,
Yes.
Mayor Arnold,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander, Councilmember Hickson Shepherd,
Yes.
Councilmember Wah.
Yes.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd, could you call for the adoption of Resolution 2026-50, which is the offering of our sale for bonds?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to call for the adoption of resolution number 2026-50.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Everyone feel like they're well versed in bonds now?
Oh, yeah.
It was a really good presentation.
It was a very good presentation. All right, I think we can go ahead and have the vote.
Yes, Mayor. Mayor Arnold,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander, Councilmember Hickson Shepherd,
Yes.
Councilmember Wah,
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell.
Yes.
All right, Councilmember Wall, could you call for the first and second reading of Bill number 9305?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to call for the first and second reading of Bill 9305.
Second.
Bill 9305, first reading. An ordinance authorizing and directing the issuance, sale, and delivery of general obligation bonds, Series 2026, of the City of Webster Groves, Missouri, prescribing the form and details of said bonds, providing for the levy and collection of an annual tax for the purpose of paying the principal of and interest on said bonds as they become due, and authorizing certain other documents and actions in connection therewith.
Is there any discussion?
I'll just make one comment that when we come back for the third reading at the next meeting, we will have a little amendment that'll go with the actual sale of that bond, the exact dollar amounts, the interest rate that was approved and all that stuff. We won't have that information until that morning, but we'll have that information for you that night to do an amendment to this before the third reading and adoption of that.
So the reason we're doing this now then is because we needed to define all the terms that go forward to the sale. Yeah, okay. Let's have the second reading then, please.
Bill 9305, second reading. An ordinance authorizing and directing the issuance, sale, and delivery of general obligation bonds, Series 2026, of the City of Webster Groves, Missouri, prescribing the form and details of said bonds, providing for the levy and collection of an annual tax for the purpose of paying the principal of and interest on said bonds as they become due, and authorizing certain other documents and actions in connection therewith.
All right. Is there anything anyone would like to remove from the consent agenda?
Maybe. Several questions. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Let's do one item at a time,
yeah,
though.
I'll do, let's do -53 first, which is, we already kind of talked about a little bit. It's, the consulting services related to the South Elm right-of-way project. So just to reiterate, that's a not to exceed. We still do need it even after the vote. But it probably won't be that dollar amount. That's what we're thinking. Is that accurate?
That is correct. I'm trying to get to down that page. It's 300 pages this time.
It's really long.
Click, click, click. That is correct. We are encumbering those funds in this fiscal year. With the option B, we're much less likely to expend all of those funds because we're not going outside of the right of way. So there shouldn't be a whole lot of right of way easement acquisition needed.
Okay, great. And then for -54, this is on the Southwest Park Stormwater Project. And I was just curious with the timing, if the new Stormwater Management Advisory Council was involved with that decision, that process.
I'm gonna let DC and Booklist take that one.
Look, he's right at the microphone.
I anticipated this question. How's that? So the Stormwater Management Advisory Commission is aware of this, but the application deadline was pressing. So staff actually brought these projects to you prior to the seating of that commission. And just so the way the projects were selected, we looked at the highest scoring projects, the ones that were clearly of a public purpose, that there was no debate about that there were no easements that needed to be acquired. Really the low-hanging fruit is how we went about those. We showed these to SMAC at their last meeting, and they were supportive of it as well.
Great, thank you. On -55, there's just a small increase on the SS4A, and I believe it's $8,000, and I believe that's coming from existing
From the
grant
grant.
funds. We're just reallocating it within the grant.
It's
fund.
within the grant. Yeah,
Okay.
it's unexpended money from the grant.
So that's all fine. And the last and fourth one I have to talk about is number 52. And this is my problem, Scott, because I misunderstood. I thought we were also talking about the service center tonight, but it's just on the consent agenda. So I would like more of a conversation about that and how it plays in with City Hall and kind of infrastructure in general. And so that's one that I might want to remove because I'm not sure that can we maybe learn more about what we're actually voting on in the consent agenda for 52?
Sure. So 52 is the, in January, brought to you concept plans on the service center, which included additional office space, enclosure of the park space, and which council was for both of those. Council wasn't sure if you all were ready for the full meeting rooms. And so this design will include the meeting rooms, but have them separated out so that they would not need to be built if council chose not to do that, depending on pricing that comes back for them or other decisions. But we will go ahead and have them designed. So this resolution authorizes us to hire an architect and design firm to actually move from that concept plan all the way through construction documents and prepare us and to ready to go out to bid on the street for a contractor to come in and build that. We'll still come back to council again and show all those designs, and we would, go out for an RFP and get pricing from contractors to build that, which would inform our decision on the meeting rooms. If it was $5, it's a yes. If it's $10, it's a no, on whether we wanted to build that. So this is just for the design phase.
And how does this play into the kind of consultant review of as we're looking at City Hall with ADA and upgrades and things like that? These are our two, we've got the rec center too, but these are two of our big buildings, and I feel like could be some overlap in what we're envisioning for city and city staff.
So it's the City Hall is kind of in that initial design phase that we've already done for the service center, the visioning phase, the concept phase. So we're engaging with the firm right now to do that work, as well as the ADA, figuring out what all we need to make us more ADA compliant, fully ADA compliant. So they're parallel projects, but they're on a different timeline. The service center is farther along in that timeline than the city hall project is. It doesn't mean that you can't do either one of them at the same time or mix and match.
Same firm or different firms?
Different firms.
Yeah.
But if the city hall project came back and said we need to move staff or have more offices or something like that, and we wanted to put those at the service center, that space that we're designing for the meeting rooms now could be converted over to more office space if we wanted to do that. So there's still flexibility in both of those projects. Neither one of these are construction projects yet. They're still both in design phase. They're just 6 months or a year apart in that design phase.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure we know what we want before we design it. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
and maybe the designing will help us get to know what we want.
Yeah, I think that I agree with what you're saying, Emily, in that we have two things going on. I think part of, and Scott and I have talked about this a little bit, part of this is to go ahead and have a design ready and decide largely on that bigger room, whether that makes sense. Because if we decide not to do that bigger room, then there's room, if we decide to move people over, you could do something more with it. But I think if we keep waiting in terms of design, who knows when we're actually going to get to some
I
of
can
this.
appreciate that.
Yeah, so I think part of it is thinking about this design would have to be a relatively flexible one.
Okay. And then, like, I know that Kirkwood's been in the news for their service center, and like what they bought it for, and now they have to do renovations, and it's pretty high dollar amount. Is there anything that we can learn from that as part of this process, so we don't end up in the same type of situation?
Well, we're not buying somebody else's building that may or may not have other problems. We've lived in that building for decades, and we know what the building is, and adding to it. We've already gone through that concept plan, so we've already identified some of those potential sticking points and have designed the concept plan around that, as far as utilities that are where we originally had planned on doing some stuff. There's some utilities that we need to miss, so we've shifted that design a little bit. There's always the potential for more stuff to pop up like that, but I don't anticipate an issue like our sister city is into with needing electrical and roofing overhauls that they weren't aware that they might have needed. It's kind of a different beast there.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you for talking through all four of those. I do not need to remove anything from the consent agenda.
I do have one more comment to Scott. So there will be efficiencies created with the service center, if I remember correctly. With the counters and
Correct.
Customer service.
Yeah, a customer service walk-up window that we don't currently have, some of that type of stuff, yes.
All right, Councilmember Smith, could you call for the approval of the consent agenda, please?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to call for the approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander?
Yes.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd?
Yes.
Councilmember Waugh?
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell?
Yes.
Mayor Arnold?
Yes. Right, we have not made any appointments to boards and commissions. So that concludes our meeting for this evening.